และสำหรับช่วงถัดไปนะคะจะเป็นเวทีวงสนทนา International Forum ค่ะซึ่งเรามีวิทยากรนะคะเป็นผู้บริหารทั้งจากในแล้วก็ต่างประเทศเชิญรับชมวิดีโอแนะนำวิทยากรได้ค่ะ Our next session is an international forum. Please direct your attention to the introductory video.สำหรับเวทีวงสนทนา International Forum ในวันนี้นะคะมีวิทยากรร่วมบรรยายดังนี้ค่ะตัวแทนผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการผังเมืองจากประเทศมาเลเซียตัวแทนผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านการผังเมืองจาก UN Habitat Mr. Srinivasa โปปุริท่านชัดชาติสิทธิพันธ์ผู้ว่าราชการกรุงเทพมหานครท่านวิจัยอมราลิขิตนายกเทศมนตรีเมืองพนัสนิคมและท่านบรรหารนวรัตน์นายกองค์การบริหารส่วนตำบลโก่งธนูจังหวัดลพบุรี Now I would like to introduce the participants in our international forum. We have the representative from Malaysia, the representative from UN Habitat, Mr. Srinivasa Popuri, the Governor of Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, Thailand, Dr. Chachat Sittipan, the Mayor of Panatnikom Municipality, Chonburi Province, Thailand, Mr. Vijay Amaralikhit, and the President of Sub-District Administrative Organization, Kong Thanu Sub-District, Lopburi Province, Thailand, Mr. บรรหาร นาวรัตน์สวัสดีท่านวิทยากรผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านเมืองทุกท่านนะคะวันนี้ดิฉันรู้สึกยินดีแล้วก็เป็นเกียรติมากๆที่ได้ร่วมพูดคุยแล้วก็แลกเปลี่ยนความรู้กับทุกท่านในวันนี้นะคะจะขอเริ่มคำถามแรกกับผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านเมืองจากประเทศมาเลเซียก่อนนะคะเนื่องจากว่ามาเลเซียโดยเฉพาะเมืองปุตราจายามีการนำแนวคิด Green City มาใช้เพื่อการพัฒนาเมืองเราก็อยากจะทราบว่ามีการนำกลไกแล้วก็มาตรการทางผังเมืองอะไรมาใช้เพื่อนนำไปสู่แนวคิดนี้กันบ้างนะคะ Welcome to the International Forum. It's been an honor to have everyone here to share their expertise and experience with us. Let's begin the forum with the representative from Putrajaya, Malaysia. As we know that Malaysia, particularly in Putrajaya, applies the concept of green city into the city development. What mechanisms or planning tools has Putrajaya used with the green city concept?
Assalamualaikum and very good morning to respected moderators and the esteemed panel members. First of all, I would like to thank the Department of Public Works and Town and Country Planning for inviting Putrajaya Corporation to share Putrajaya's experience in transforming the city into a low-carbon green city. Putrajaya is a Malaysian federal administrative center. The city was planned based on concept of city in a garden in the year 1995. The planning and development of Putrajaya as early as its initial conception has taken into consideration the importance of the concepts of sustainable development. Putrajaya is meticulously planned and developed with the emphasis on the environmental conservation as well as efficient use of natural resources. However, before the low-carbon green city concept taken place, there was no measurement or monitoring for the greenhouse gases GHG emission for Putrajaya. In line with the government's commitment and efforts to address global environmental issues, especially climate change, the government had announced Putrajaya to be one of the pioneer green technology cities for Malaysia during the budget speech in 2009. This represents the starting point of Putrajaya's transformation towards a low-carbon green city from the original concept, city in a garden. Putrajaya Corporation, as the local authority, since then has been gearing up its efforts towards realizing low-carbon green city. Policy 5 in Putrajaya Structure Plan 2025 provided the direction for this transformation. By applying the low-carbon green city concept, the city has clearly quantitative environmental targets to be achieved by year 2025 and conducting annual inventories for monitoring target achievement. Inventory results provide us facts and evidence to review our green initiative and setting relevant policy instruments. The GHG emission inventory for year 2021 shown there was a reduction of 5.2% as compared to the emission level in year 2019. Apart from that, energy efficiency for building sector has been significantly improved over the past 10 years. The emission intensity by floor spaces in year 2021 has reduced 31% as compared to year 2012. Our community is actively participating in producing green or upcycled product for own use and for sales. Green product were produced from used beverage carton and used banners.
สอบถามทางคุณศรีนิวาสาโปปุริตัวแทนจาก UN Habitat นะคะเนื่องจากว่า UN Habitat เองนำแนวคิด Sustainable Development Goals มาขับเคลื่อนการพัฒนาเมืองก็อยากให้ท่านช่วยยกตัวอย่างความสำเร็จหรือว่าผลลัพธ์ที่ดีจากการขับเคลื่อนเมืองผ่านแนวคิด SDG ให้กับผู้เข้าร่วมงานได้รับฟังนะคะ The next question is for the representative from UN Habitat, Mr. Srinivasa Popuri. We know that UN Habitat used the Sustainable Development Goals in the City Development Program. Could you please share with us about the successful results from using SDG in the City Development Program?
Sawadee-krap. Let me start by sharing congratulations to the Royal Thai government for commemoration of the World Town Planning Day 2022. And our sincere thanks to the Department of Public Works and Town and Country Planning for convening this international forum as an opportunity for exchange of ideas on the planning discourse. So my name is Srinivasa Popuri, and the Senior Human Settlements Officer of UN Habitat and also the representative to Thailand. Your question about the successful results using SDGs. You know, since 2015, the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals and its 17 goals have been driving and inspiring governments and all the stakeholders to take transformative actions individually and also collectively for people, for the planet, and also for the prosperity. At the same time, they are also strengthening the universal peace in largest freedom, you know. And we are also strongly believe SDGs provide a global blueprint for dignity, peace, prosperity for now and also for future. So same time, let us be very clear that the SDGs cannot be implemented by itself. So they have to be complemented by other international policy frameworks and conventions, including the New Urban Agenda, the Sendai Framework of Action on DRR, the Paris Climate Change, and Addis Ababa Action Agenda on Financing for Development, along with many other UN resolutions. So we use the SDGs to help orient and direct and assist cities towards shared goals and responsibilities. For example, we used SDG 1.4.2 to highlight the rights to land as an important quantitative target and essential precondition for sustainable development. And it encouraged the cities to ensure such dimensions are assessed and reported through the voluntary local reviews and also voluntary national reviews. So this promotion of 1.4.2 goal will provide that inclusion of the people that are left behind, the most vulnerable population. And for the city concerned, which might be collecting this information on a particular indicator for the first time, and this allows the establishment of a baseline from which the city can continuously monitor its progress and the performance for years to come, say until 2030. So practically speaking, and for the work which UN Habitat is typically engaged, we have been seeing tremendous value in using SDGs to help convey the progress on the achievement of, for example, clean and safe drinking water related to SDG 6, or the proportion of municipal solid waste and wastewater which is effectively treated. And in Thailand, for example, the UN Habitat is partnering with Asian Institute of Technology to operationalize utility-based wastewater monitoring and coordinating with Hatyai municipality to collect data contributing to a global sanitation and wastewater report. And we are also working collaboratively with the United Nations Environment Program in Chonburi province and WWF in Thailand, in southern provinces of Thailand, to ascertain the level of plastic waste leakage into the environment and types of waste generated. In short, most cities around the world are already following the principles of SDGs, even if they are not actively aware of the SDGs themselves. So the most city development programs are almost certain to cover whole host of SDGs, ranging from universal design and accessibility for the disabled, adequate housing, the transport connectivity, energy and natural resource management, heritage and environmental conservation, urban health and well-being, resilience to disasters, and public participation. I mean, just to name a few in this respect. And here in Thailand, and together with the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, BMA, over the last 4 years, we have been working very closely with the support of the government of UK as part of the Global Future Cities program to apply a comprehensive SDG framework assessment methodology to assess the performance of interventions implemented in the areas of urban planning, resilience, and transport. So this is a concrete example how SDGs can be used to help cities develop, which in case of collaboration with the BMA and McDonald, we have facilitated development of an integrated data roadmap and a decision support system for flood management using Latprau area as a pilot study. And we also have developed transport-oriented development plan for Klong Bangluang and Bangwa BTS station. So there are many other examples of how we used SDGs for city development. I mean, if I have to quote any global example, we used measurement of city prosperity index in Mexico that has paved a way for a country to measure the progress of 2030 agenda. As a result, they launched a policy of housing at the center of SDGs. And similarly, the examples of the India's Housing for All or the Cities for All program in many of the neighboring South Asian nations are typical examples of how we used and promoted SDGs for city development. Thank you.
กลับมาที่ประเทศไทยนะคะไปที่จังหวัดลพบุรีกันบ้างค่ะสอบถามทางคุณบรรหาร นวรัตน์นายกองค์การบริหารส่วนตำบลโก่งธนูนะคะซึ่งมีแนวทางการบริหารตำบลที่โดดเด่นด้านการจัดการขยะซึ่งเราทราบว่ามีปัจจัยที่สำคัญหลายด้านสำหรับการพัฒนาชุมชนให้น่าอยู่แต่ว่าทำไมท่านถึงเริ่มต้นที่ประเด็นด้านความสะอาดเป็นอย่างแรกนะคะ Let's come back to Thailand to our presenter from Lopburi province คุณบรรหาร นวรัตน์ the chief executive of the sub-district administrative organization ตำบลโก่งธนู at ตำบลโก่งธนู They have an outstanding achievement in waste management. I'd like to ask คุณบรรหาร นวรัตน์ since there are many reasons to develop a livable community, why did you select cleanliness to be the first priority for developing your community?
การทำให้บ้านเมืองสะอาดมันเป็นเรื่องดีและเป็นนโยบายของกระทรวงมหาดไทยเราเป็นคนของกระทรวงมหาดไทยเรายืนยันว่าทำตามกระทรวงมหาดไทยร่างกายดีบ้านเมืองสะอาดเนี่ยสุขภาพก็จะดีไปด้วยจิตใจประชาชนก็จะดีไปด้วยครับ
จากลพบุรีนะคะเราจะขอข้ามไปทางภาคตะวันออกกันบ้างค่ะซึ่งก็มีการขับเคลื่อนด้านการจัดการขยะเช่นเดียวกันนะคะเราจะสอบถามทางคุณวิจัยอมราลิขิตว่าอะไรคือจุดเปลี่ยนหรือว่าจุดเริ่มต้นที่ทำให้ท่านอยากจะพัฒนาพนัสนิคมให้ทั้งประเทศได้รู้จักนะคะ From Lopburi we move to eastern Thailand to Panathnikom municipality Chonburi province where there are many achievements on waste management. I would like to ask คุณวิจัยอมราลิขิต what is the turning point and the inspiration to develop and make Panathnikom become well known nationwide?
Well, back in 1977, I was a graduate in the major of civil engineering, and I have some knowledge of the environment and city planning. And in the year of 1987, I ran for the mayor of Panathnikom municipality. And that time I got elected as the mayor of Panathnikom municipality. One day, the Department of Local Administration assigned me to give some knowledge to the mayor of other municipality about how to treat the wastewater from the structure house. After I introduced myself to the audience, and some of the audience asked me where you come from. I told them I come from Panathnikom municipality. Someone asked me that where that. I wonder how they don't know where is Panathnikom municipality. This was the inspiration to me to put Panathnikom municipality on the map to make my hometown a place of visit. That's the first start of to manage my hometown to the people come to visit us.
ไปลพบุรีแล้วก็ชลบุรีกันมาแล้วนะคะแน่นอนว่าเรามองข้ามกรุงเทพไปไม่ได้เลยค่ะเราจะไปสอบถามทางท่านชัชชาติสิทธิพันธ์ผู้ว่าราชการกรุงเทพมหานครว่ากรุงเทพมหานครในอดีตมีสภาพปัญหาอย่างไรก่อนจะมีแนวคิดปั้นกรุงเทพเมืองน่าอยู่พร้อมเหตุผลที่นำมาสู่การพัฒนา We have been to Lopburi and Chonburi. We definitely cannot overlook Bangkok. Let's turn our attention to ท่านชัชชาติสิทธิพันธ์ the governor of Bangkok, to Dr. ชัชชาติ How was Bangkok in the past? The issues that the city has been confronting and the condition before making it a livable city. What are the notions that bring current development?
Thanks for inviting me to this forum, and it's my honor. I just been Bangkok governor for 4 months, right? So I share with you. Maybe some of you are not familiar with Bangkok, so I will just briefly tell you what's happening. Oh, right. Okay, share screen. Okay, can you see it? So just briefly, okay, about the Bangkok. So Bangkok is the capital city of Thailand, right? It's in the middle of the country, and we have the shoreline about 7 kilometers. We have about 1,600 square kilometers and divided into 50 districts and 180 sub-districts, right? So you see the lower part here. We have the location that just next to the Gulf of Thailand, right? Okay, here. And then the history of Bangkok, we start with canals. I mean, if you know, we used to be called the Venice of the East. So I mean, like 200 years ago, we commute by canals, and then the road comes, right? And then the train comes. So you see that the train come last. So you see, we have a lot of sprawling in the development because we don't have a train system. So we don't have nodes. The train might come a little bit too late. So you have a lot of sprawling in our residents around Bangkok. So we have a population about maybe 9 million, 10 million, including non-registered one. So we have workforce coming maybe in the daytime and then go out nighttime and sleep in the province, in the suburb of Bangkok. So we are comparing to like Boston, right? We are like maybe 10 times larger than Boston, and the density is not that high, for the Bangkok itself. And then we are really a primate city. Maybe the second largest one is Nakhon Ratchasima. We less than 2 times the number of population. So you can see the skyline, right? I mean, the left-hand side is skyline of Bangkok, and the right-hand side is skyline of Nakhon Ratchasima, which is the second largest city in Thailand. So it is. So we are truly a primate city. So we pool all the resources to Bangkok, all the development. And for the BMA itself, right, the city has a budget of about 80 billion Thai baht. We have about 2.5% of the budget compared to the national budget, but we're taking care of the 12% of the population. So I think the city itself had limited authority. We don't control policemen or other unit like water or electricity. So we mainly provide service for like garbage, cleaning the street, water treatment, and education, and part of the healthcare. And the GDP of Bangkok, gross provincial product of Bangkok is about 30% of national GDP, but including the metropolitan region, another 5 provinces, we account to more than 45% of the national GDP. So we are truly the primate city. I think in the future of Bangkok, we have to be able to, I mean, not Bangkok, but to all cities around the world. I think the focus is to thrive. The cities must attract smart people and enable them to work collaboratively. So this one was said by Edward Glaser. I think he was teaching at Harvard University maybe 20 years ago. So I think this is very important. I mean, the future of the cities, you have to be able to attract talents to your city to create jobs, create work, or start a company, do the startup, So there is no such thing as a successful city without human capital. So when you do the planning for the future city, think about this, your role is to attract more talents to the city. And this is a little bit scary for Thai youth, right? I mean, we do the survey, as someone did the survey among the Asian countries, whether you want to work overseas or you want to work in your own country. And Thailand ranked number 2, I mean, like 52% of the Thai youth want to work abroad. More than half don't want to work in Bangkok, comparing to Singapore, right? Like 34% of Singaporeans want to work in Singapore, want to work outside Singapore, and 66% want to work in Singapore. So I think this is the problem, that the future city has to be able to retain its talents, so they can bring good work and good jobs to the city. And you can see that many cities in the future are competing to bring talents. Like Singapore, they have the new work pass for top talents. The UK, they have like high potential individual route for the visas to come without a job offer. Or even the Japan, they launched the point-based system for highly skilled foreign professionals to bring the talents to the cities, right? I mean, and other countries like China, South Korea, competing to attract talents. See, when the growth rate, the birth rate is down. So the human is the most important capital for the future cities, right? So what's the problem with Bangkok? You see Bangkok, there are 2 numbers related to us, 1 and 98. One is we are the number 1 tourist destination, but 98, I think we are the number of the global livability index. So I mean, Bangkok is a good for tourists. I mean, number 1, people want to visit Bangkok for a short time, but for livability index, which is mean the people who stay here for a longer time, like work here, we are ranking number 98 from 140 cities. So I think we need to improve that in order to be able to compete for the talents in the future. We have to improve our livability of the city. So I think the vision for Bangkok in the future, based on our previous past, would be we want Bangkok to be a livable city for all, right? Not only for someone, but for everyone who live here. I think the major problem that we have to think for the future is the capillaries issues, right? When you look at the city, it's similar to the vascular system of our body. We have the artery vein, which is the main blood vessel, and the capillaries, which is tiny blood vessels, right? So comparing to the city, these are the artery look like a mega project in the city, and capillary are small projects, right? So in the city, you need to have both systems that working together. If one of them is not working, it's like a chain, right? I mean, so you are as strong as your weakest link. If your capillary system is weak, so the system will fail at the weakest link. So when you look at the city, you have like transportation, you have good train system. You have nearly 466 kilometers in few years. So it's a main arterial system. But we have many lines, the color as many as rainbow colors. But when you look at the capillary system, the last mile you go to your home, you still have to wait for the motorcycle or to the bus to bring you from the arterial to the capillary. Like you have to wait for a motorcycle taxi to bring you to the last mile to your destination. Or the garbage system, right? Garbage handling system. You have a garbage incinerator investing billions of Thai baht, even and Nut and Nong Kham, right? Very world class incinerator. But look at the garbage collecting at your home. You still use manual staff pulling your garbage, and even the collecting point is poorly managed. This one is a capillary system that for the garbage handling system, right? So if you have good incinerator, you have poor capillary, your garbage system is not as good as it can be. About the flooding, right? We have invest a lot in the giant drainage tunnels. Maybe we invest like billions of Thai baht on that. But when you look at the capillary system, like the drainage at your house, at your office, still clog and have problem bringing the water to the major or to the arterial or to the giant tunnel. So this one will cause the flooding in many areas because the capillary system for drainage is poorly managed. Or the hospital, right? We have big world-class hospitals like university hospital, Chulalongkorn hospital, or private hospital, right? We have BMA itself invest on the many world-class hospital too. But you look at the primary care in the community, because it's community in Klong Toei, right? The healthcare center which provide primary care, we have like 82 staff for handling 100,000 people in the area, right? Or even smaller like community clinic. It's not properly equipped. You have only few medicines and only volunteers who work in this clinic. So the primary healthcare is weak. So even though you have very world-class hospital, cannot cope with the high demand of the people. Or education, we have many world-class universities, right? But you have the early childhood center that take care of the 0 to 6 years old kids still not adequate, both in quantities and in qualities, right? So this make the education system still need to be improved, even though you have very good world-class universities, right? Or even the park, you're planning for the park. We have large park in the CBD area, but you have very small or limited park in your neighborhood or in your community, so you cannot get access to the green space. So you have very strong, big, large arterial park in the CBD, but the capillary park in your community is not good enough, right? So I think maybe this is the problem of the how we put the policy of city planning or city infrastructure. We tend to focus more on the mega project, right? And then we neglect the capillary project, and which make the system incomplete. So I think the bottom line, you need both of the capillary and the arterial project to make the cities provide a complete service. So I think maybe that's the basic idea of what's happening in Bangkok, and we have to focus both the capillary and the arterial project.
มาที่เมืองปุตราจายานะคะอย่างที่เราทราบกันว่าประชากรในเมืองสามารถจะเข้าถึงสิ่งอำนวยความสะดวกได้อย่างทั่วถึงและก็เท่าเทียมเราอยากจะรู้ว่ามีกลไกอะไรมาตรการทางผังเมืองหรือว่าเครื่องมืออะไรในการจัดสรรพื้นที่ให้เกิดผลลัพธ์ตรงนี้บ้างนะคะ So we see that Putrajaya civilian can easily access to the facilities. What mechanisms or planning tools have you applied to the management of infrastructure following the master plan?
Putrajaya applied self-sufficient city concept in several aspects. Number one, self-contained neighborhood planning. At the residential precinct, at the peripheral area, self-contained neighborhood centers are planned in an integrated manner, complete with pedestrian walkway and cycleway to reduce the need for residents to use motorized transportation in running their day-to-day activities, and these are expected to contribute towards reduction of carbon emission arising from the use of motorized transportation. Each precinct has its own neighborhood center, complexes, sufficient public amenities, commercial area, and workplaces to fulfill residents' daily needs without traveling in a long distance. Secondly, food for urban agriculture. Urban farming and stingless bee farms are established within neighborhood areas by our communities. Vegetables, fruits, and honey can be harvested year-long without relying too much from deliveries elsewhere. The small-scale hydroponic farming system also being applied at the office building and residential with limited spaces. Number 3 is powered using renewable energy resources such as solar is our main approach for self-sufficient power supply. Approximately 3,400 megawatt per hour of electricity was generated annually from solar PV system installed on the rooftop buildings. Besides, our centralized gas district cooling plant have been equipped with cogeneration system which has the advantage in terms of energy efficiency. Number 4 is water. In Putrajaya, a city-scale rainwater harvesting program has been implemented using the 400 hectares man-made lake that functions as an effective large-scale water retainer system. Lake water is used as an alternative water resources for various purposes such as landscape, irrigation, and cleaning purposes. Number 5 is circular economy. Waste isn't wasted in our city. Based on the circular economy concept, we are partnering with manufacturers in the food industry to reuse and recycle the used beverage carton into useful material to green products such as roof panel, furniture, and paper, and etc. Free training and workshop are organized to train our residents and students in producing creative green products.
เรากลับมามองภาพกว้างกันบ้างนะคะสอบถามไปทางตัวแทนจาก UN Habitat ในมุมมองของท่านมองว่าแนวคิดการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนและเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองหรือเศรษฐกิจพอเพียงมีความเหมือนหรือแตกต่างกันอย่างไรนะคะ Let's look at the big picture. This question is for the representative from UN Habitat. In your viewpoint, do you perceive the concept of SDG, self-sufficient cities or self-sufficient economy as similar or different from each other, and why?
Of course, we are very much indebted to the philosophies of self-sufficient economy introduced by His Majesty the late King Bhumipol Ahulyadej, which is considered to be a fundamental principle of Thai culture, espousing the 3 essential principles of moderation, reasonableness, and self-reliance or self-immunity. You see, it is perhaps one of the most famous and enduring legacies of sustainable growth and development dating back to the royal projects initiated in 1946 to promote self-reliance and sustainable farming. So in this regard, there are clearly some inherently strong linkages with SDGs, particularly when we consider the SDG 12 on responsible consumption and production, which along with SDG 13 on climate action are the 2 SDGs among the 17 SDGs which are currently regressing. They are going backwards. So what does it mean? So simply put together, this means the living beyond our means when it comes to our consumption behaviors, all at the same time rapidly impacting on the climate, biodiversity, condition of our ecosystems throughout our choice of lifestyles and impacted by our behavior and also our lifestyles. So growing in relevance, partly due to extensive exposure to natural hazards disaster risks such as climate change and experienced most acutely in Asia and the Pacific region, I find that there are clear and parallel regarding the concepts of the reliance building associated with SDG 11 and the perceptions of self-immunity that contained in the sufficiency economy philosophy of the king of Thailand at that time. So when it comes to the cities, self-sufficient cities becomes particularly relevant. For UN Habitat, we are seeing this through our work on promoting subsidiarity of municipal finance and own source revenue. So during COVID-19, we witnessed how inner city and cross-border travel was under tight scrutiny due to movement control restrictions, and it has left many towns and cities completely isolated and detached, and it impacted on international supply chains, and also it limited the access to goods and services, not only related to the pandemic, but also more recently with the floods in Bangkok. We saw how neighborhoods were cut off from the roads and forced to evacuate due to rising water levels induced by heavy rainfall. So these are all the climatic risks. So designing the cities to be self-sufficient is not only requires good planning, but it has to be adaptive to the changing conditions of now and also for future. So some have viewed the King Bhumipol Adulyadej's self-sufficient economy as an alternative development framework for Thailand. And I like to think of the SDGs and SEPs being complementary, especially in the way which the SEP professed by the King helps ensure sustainable development policies enacted or done in a manner which are balanced, whereas the SDGs can be perceived as more or less like technical targets and indicators cities should aspire to achieve, and whereas the sufficiency economy principle offered a value-based approach to sustainable development.
สอบถามต่อนะคะทางคุณบรรหาร นาวรัตน์ทราบมาว่าที่ตำบลโก่งธนูมีโครงการที่ชื่อว่าธนาคารขยะประชารัฐเพื่อนช่วยเพื่อนอยากจะทราบว่าโครงการนี้มีกลไกอย่างไรคะและสามารถจะยกระดับสภาพแวดล้อมในชุมชนได้อย่างไรบ้างค่ะ The next question is for ท่านบรรหาร นาวรัตน์ I heard about the public waste bank project and Friends Help Friends project in Kong Thanu sub-district. What are the mechanisms of public waste bank project and Friends Help Friends project? How can it raise up the environment of the community?
การที่มีชุมชนสะอาดเราร่วมมือกับชุมชนแล้วทำให้ทุกคนร่วมมือกับเราหนึ่งภาคข้าราชการภาคพลังบวรต่างๆแม้แต่พี่น้องประชาชนเราต้องไปให้ถึงจุดถึงบ้านคือว่าเราจะแนะนำในส่วนตรงนี้บอกได้เลยว่าการที่เรามีสวัสดิการนี่คือเป็นแรงจูงใจอีกหลักชัยว่าเขาเสียชีวิตแล้วเขาได้เงินคุณต้องมาร่วมโครงการกันผู้นำต้องกล้าแสดงออกกับประชาชนที่รู้ว่าเราเป็นผู้นำตัวจริงแล้วทำยังไงให้ชาวบ้านได้ประโยชน์ตรงนี้ก็คือต้องแยกขยะเปียกและขยะแห้งมาสู่สวัสดิการเพื่อนช่วยเพื่อนเสียชีวิตได้เงิน8นี่คือหลักและแรงจูงใจของคนตำบลโก่งธนูแล้วการที่คนตำบลโก่งธนูและผ่านการทำ MOU ตลอดชีวิตระหว่างประชาชนข้าราชการหรือพลังบวรต่างๆของคนตำบลโก่งธนูครับ
เรื่องการจัดการขยะเรียกว่าเป็นประเด็นที่หลายพื้นที่ให้ความสำคัญนะคะเช่นเดียวกับที่พนัสนิคมค่ะสอบถามทางคุณวิจัยอมราลิขิตนะคะว่าจากปัจจัยที่สำคัญหลายด้านสำหรับการพัฒนาเมืองให้น่าอยู่แต่ทำไมท่านถึงให้ความสำคัญแล้วก็เลือกขับเคลื่อนด้านการจัดการขยะมาเป็นอันดับแรกค่ะ As we know that waste management is an important aspect in many cities including พนัสนิคม I would like to ask คุณวิจัยอมราลิขิต There are many important aspects regarding the development of a livable city. Why do you decide to work on cleanliness as the first aspect?
Well, it's a common sense that when the people go travel or visit a new place, what they expect. I think the first notice that they will comment on is the image of the city. Is that right? So that's the point. I have to make my city have a good image, which have to be clean and neat. That is the main reason why I focus on the cleanliness on the first factor.
เราได้ทราบแล้วนะคะว่าทางลพบุรีแล้วก็พนัสนิคมให้ความสะอาดเป็นกลไกในการขับเคลื่อนเมืองน่าอยู่แล้วสำหรับกรุงเทพมหานครล่ะคะสอบถามท่านชัชชาติสิทธิพันธ์นะคะว่าจากแนวคิดการพัฒนากรุงเทพมหานครให้สมกับเป็นเมืองหลวงที่เป็นเมืองน่าอยู่ท่านจะพัฒนาอย่างไรให้ประสบความสำเร็จใช้แนวคิดอะไรมีวิธีการดำเนินการอย่างไรและเครื่องมืออะไรในการพัฒนาให้ประสบความสำเร็จค่ะ We have learned that พนัสนิคม and ลพบุรี put cleanliness as an important mechanism in developing the livable city. So for Bangkok Metropolitan, I would like to ask Tan Chacha Sitipan, what is your approach in developing BMA to become livable capital? What are the concepts, approaches, or tools that will make cities development successful?
Okay, I think we have to have to develop the strategy, right? I think you have to understand the situation first. So I think there are 3 steps, right? You have to do like diagnosis. What's happening? So we found out that we need to improve our livability index, and we have to improve the capillary system, right? So the first one we diagnosis. The second one you need a guiding policy, right? I mean which way you want to or how you want to improve that, and then last you need the action plan. So I think for our program we start with looking at the livability index from the agency that provide the service for that, right? I mean. When we look at the number 98 of our ranking, it comes from EIU, Economics Intelligence Unit. So they provide the livability city index. So they have like 5 areas and 30 indices. It's too many for us. So we reduce it to 9 guiding policy, right? So we have diagnosis and then we have guiding policy. So in order to make Bangkok livable, we need 9 areas that we need focus in. So it starts with environment, like the green Bangkok, health, mobility, safety management, infrastructure, economy, creativity, and learning. So these are 3 guiding policy. And then the third element would be you need the coherent action plans, right? I mean, you have guiding policy, but you have no action plan. You cannot really execute it. So from this 9 guiding policy, we develop like 216 action plan, which we will be increasing it in the near future. So these action plans touch many areas, right, including both the capillary and arterial project, right, starting from like open Bangkok traffic, city planning, street vendor. So you need action plans according to your guiding policies, right? And then we put this action plan in our website, so you can take a look if you want. I mean, in our website and we have it in English too, so you can explore. And some other something that simple, it's like a mega project. It's just not much budget needed. Like we want to Bangkok to be a venue for live music and performance, street shows, and we already start implementing it. And so, for example, there are some of the projects that we are implementing according to our 9 guiding policy. Like we want to improve the green of the city, so we plan to plant 1 million trees. So first we announce this policy. People laugh at us that, oh, it's incredible, we right now we have maybe 3 million trees in Bangkok. How can you plant another 1 million trees? Who's gonna do it? So we announced this program, and then I think many people join us, and people get involved and collaborate with us on this project. So right now we have nearly like 1.6 we have 1.6 million people, 1.6 million trees pledged from the private sector. So we have people get involved. We plant already 160,000 trees already. So hopefully in 4 years in our term, we can plant maybe 2 million trees. And this done by the corporation, and it's according to the green policy for Bangkok. We want to do 15 minutes park. So we want to increase the accessibility of the people to the park. So we find similar to what Paris do in Paris 15, right? So we try to small parks and a small area and then put the tree in. we want to do a water treatment plant. We have problem of the quality of the water in our canal, so we will have more of the water treatment like centralized plant, and then also we have more on-site plants to improve the quality of the water released to the canals, right? For the healthcare, we have to improve the capillary service, so we do the mobile medical unit, right? So instead of doctor going to the community, we have doctors stay at the hospital or at the center, and then we use telemedicine to connect the patients in the community to the doctors. We can use a motorcycle or some like a televan, like telemedicine, right? So people stay in the community and connect to the hospital where the doctor sit. So now doctor can maybe provide service to more patients that they stay in one location, and the telemedicine unit go to visit the communities. So people don't have to travel a long way, and they can connect conveniently, and record is on the digital file, so they can visit anywhere with sharing the same file. Yeah, we want to do like patient data case management to make the data synchronized among centers. We want to improve the walkability of the city. We want Bangkok to be a walkable city, right? So we used to see this in Bangkok, right? People no place to walk, and then was occupied by the street vendors or maybe even motorcycles or construction. So we want to improve 1,000 kilometers of walkable walkway, maybe sharing the bike for the feeder or maybe the last miles from your house, your office to the arterial line, to the bus or to the train line using a bicycle, right? And maybe we improve the mass transit. Maybe we have more like a feeder connecting to the arterial line, right? We try to do an intelligent traffic management system, so we can use the resources of the road more efficient, because we have limited space of road, so we have to utilize it as much as possible by installing the intelligent traffic management system and traffic light control centrally by using AI algorithm. And maybe doing more like transportation hub, so we can share mode of transportation. So I think there are many things that we try to implement according to our guiding policy, right? So you start with a diagnosis, your problem, and you have your guiding policy. And I think the important thing, you need action plans, because without action plan, your strategy is only the slogan. So this action plan will help guide the efforts and then coordinate all the staff and all other units to work together towards the same guiding policy. Yep.
มาต่อกันที่มาเลเซียนะคะถึงมุมมองต่อแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองสำหรับเมืองในปัจจุบันเป็นอย่างไรนะคะ Let's move to Malaysia. What is your viewpoint on the concept of being a self-sufficient city in today's city?
Moving forward for Putrajaya towards a sustainable development, three main areas will be focused. Number one, to increase the ridership for public transport. We will increase the usage of public transport in comparative with the private vehicles. Number two, to encourage the use of bicycles as alternative mode for transport for short distance. This is through the preparation of facilities throughout the city for the cyclists. And number three, new facilities for solid waste management, specifically on material recovery facilities. So we have allocated about a few acres area to provide this facility for the future.
และเนื่องจากท่านเป็นผู้เชี่ยวชาญด้านแนวคิด SDGs นะคะและมองเห็นภาพการพัฒนาในหลายๆประเทศอยากจะทราบว่าแนวทางการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนในมุมมองของท่านต้องใช้เครื่องมืออะไรในการพัฒนาค่ะ To the UN Habitat Representative, you are the expert in SDG concept and has overseen town development in many countries. In your viewpoint, what are the necessary developing tools for sustainable development?
Thank you. In my view, I consider three tools that all the leaders and the practitioners must target. These are, how do we finance the new urban agenda, which I think is pivotal for sustainable developmental goals, and how do we promote the territorial development, and how do we enhance the urban resilience to climate change and disaster risks. So in the context of developing our towns and cities, let me underscore that the sustainable urbanization, which I'm referring to from the new urban agenda, it is pivotal and central to the realization of the global developmental goals, including the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and achieving of SDGs and meeting the national climate change commitments to the Paris agreements. So for this to happen, we need to have both vertical, multi-level governance and collaboration between all levels of the government at a vertical level and also at a horizontal level, at 3 levels, at a national level, at subnational level, which is called also regional level, and also at local level, along with the people that are residing in that particular area. In Thailand, this has for long been spearheaded by our counterpart, Department of Public Works and Town and Country Planning, through their national and regional spatial planning initiatives. At the same time, we need better horizontal integration pertaining to collaboration between several government departments, international organizations, civil society, private sector, and philanthropies, and also the communities. So UN Habitat is supporting these efforts through our advocacy platforms like World Urban Forum, the New Urban Agenda, the Urban Thinkers Campus, and these are all associated with the World Urban Campaign of UN Habitat. And as you know, we are in the month of October, we call it as Urban October, and we have celebrated World Habitat Day on the first Monday of October. And whereas on 31st of October, we are going to celebrate as the last day of October as World Cities Day. So the SDGs provide an unprecedented opportunity, even an imperative for businesses, for development banks, for philanthropies, and to make greater and more lasting impact on the causes that they have prioritized. Yet, we must encourage the commercial and the financial services and the sectors not only gain the ESG brownie points, but they will have to internalize the SDGs by asking themselves whether the houses and the real estate agents that are they building and using the design facilities such as passive design and the technologies that reduces the carbon footprint and also reduces the heat. So how far they reliant on bioclimatic architecture and natural-based solutions? These are the questions that we all need to ask ourselves. But second, we need investment. We need investment in developing renewable sources, the alternative sources of energy, investment for basic services, investment for climate adaptation. So the wealthier countries should deliver their climate finance commitments to the developing countries. It is happening, but it is not happening the way it should happen, so that all the countries can comply the 2030 goals by 2030, not dragging beyond 2030. So the developing countries cannot wait any longer. So they should be able to access the finance they need. For example, with thanks to the Royal Thai government, we are delivering technical assistance on waste management strategies in Kisii municipality in Kenya. So, and our SDG cities tool is helping to address the problem of investing and supporting the local governments in development of inclusive, sustainable, effective urban projects that are aligned towards SDG targets and the new urban agenda. And recently, as recent as in August 2022, UN Habitat and UNCDF, we have announced the launch of Cities Investment Facility, and we are aiming to raise around 40 million in order to support 240 cities by 2025 with sustainable financing at local level. So, and third, we also need fiscal decentralization. So many cities and the local governments continue to be restrained by the national governments in their capacity to borrow money, in their capacity to issue municipal bonds and raise revenue. we feel if you empower the cities, empower the local urban bodies, we feel they are able to spearhead the local level sustainable development. Finally, the legal frameworks of the national governments, they often assign local governments responsibility to provide a range of social services, but they do not adequately transfer funds to meet those, and do not enable them to source funds themselves by approaching the international or national financial institutions. So Thailand has developed some innovative mechanisms for facilitating welfare funding, and indeed it is leading the light among all the ASEAN countries when it comes to sustainable financing of the SDGs. So the legal framework of national governments, they not only guide the local governments, but they must enable and they must facilitate that access to finance to all the local governments. And one such initiative that I could recall is the Ban Mekong Cooperative Housing Scheme, developed by CODI to pool community resources to set up a revolving fund for social development. Elsewhere, the Bank of Thailand is also developing a practical and sustainable finance taxonomy as a way to classifying financial flows to more effectively facilitate environmental, social, and corporate governance. In addition, the global monitoring framework, a collaboration between UN Habitat and other UN system entities, is being applied to aggregate data at the city, at the community level, as a basis for policymakers and eventually setting standards for sustainable urban development. And within Thailand, we are working very closely with our partners, UNFPA, UNESCAP, to explore alignment with the National Housing and Population Census to be conducted by the National Statistics Office in 2023. We see this as an opportunity to advocate for the achievement of urban SDGs through evidence-based decision-making and translating policy into practice. And finally, we must not forget that access to safe, affordable, well-located housing for all is center. It's an epicenter for decarbonization. So the sustainable and adequate housing as a human right is one of the transformative forces that can help cities to overcome challenges for climate change, poverty, exclusion, and inequality. Thank you.
ต่อไปขออนุญาตสอบถามคุณบรรหาร นวรัตน์ในประเด็นด้านการมีส่วนร่วมของคนในชุมชนนะคะอยากจะทราบว่าองค์การบริหารส่วนตำบลโก่งธนูใช้วิธีการหรือว่ากลไกอะไรที่สามารถจะดึงการมีส่วนร่วมของชุมชนในการเข้ามาจัดการขยะแล้วก็สภาพแวดล้อมของชุมชนได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพค่ะ Now I would like to ask คุณบรรหาร นวรัตน์ about the participation of people in the community. What method that โก่งธนู Sub-District Administrative Organization used to draw people to participate in waste management and community environment effectively.
หลักจริงๆของตำบลโป่งธนูก็หลักทรงงานของรัชกาลที่ 9ทำให้ตำบลโป่งธนูได้อยู่เราก็ใช้วิธีโดยการเข้าใจเข้าถึงพัฒนาแล้วก็ทิ้งท้ายด้วยผู้นำทำก่อนทำให้ตำบลโป่งธนูเป็นเมืองน่าอยู่
และเนื่องจากว่าเป็นตำบลขนาดกลางนะคะงบประมาณต่อปีก็อาจจะไม่ได้สูงเท่ากับท้องถิ่นอื่นๆพนัสนิคมเองมีการบริหารงบประมาณแล้วก็ดึงแหล่งเงินทุนในการพัฒนาเมืองอย่างไรเพื่อพัฒนาเมืองจนกลายเป็นเมืองที่น่าอยู่ที่สุดในประเทศนะคะ Regarding to the size of Pananikom district, it will be allocated small annual budgets compared to other districts. How does Pananikom manage its budget effectively? And how do you attract the investors to the city and make it the most livable city in Thailand?
Well, in Thailand, they have many competition awards among local government, such as the cleanest city, livable city, and good governance. Well, we always apply for that competition. In the year 1990, Pananikom Municipality won the Thailand Cleanest City Award. and in 2012, Pananikom Municipality got the Livable City Award, and in 2014, we got the Good Governance Award. All of these awards make our city well known. So that make our city or our municipality have the higher chance to get the grant from the central government. It's easy to get a grant if we ask the grant from the central government because they know that we are a livable city or we are the cleanest city. And also we can get the grant from abroad. That's the reason that I always put the Pananikom municipality on every competition. Try to get award as much as possible. Pananikom municipality is a small city and small budget. Then we have to spend the budget carefully. We apply sufficient economy to the sufficient economy is the theory of the King Ramanai of Thailand to manage the city and our citizen. Sufficient economy is the method of development based on moderation, prudent, and social immunity. One that use knowledge and virtue as guideline in living. That's the theory that we apply for our city and for our citizen to rely on sufficient economy.
ยังคงเป็นเรื่องการสร้างเมืองน่าอยู่นะคะสอบถามท่านชัชชาติสิทธิพันธ์ค่ะท่านคิดว่าแนวทางการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนในอนาคตของกรุงเทพมหานครมีวิธีดำเนินการอย่างไรบ้างคะ We continue to talk about developing the livable city. The next question is for ท่านชัชชาติสิทธิพันธ์ What are the BMA's future steps for sustainable development?
Okay, so for the future step for sustainable development, right? So I think the first thing we have to maybe understand better what does sustainable mean. Sustainable development is development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. I think that is a very important concept of sustainability. So you don't use the resource of the future generation to make the benefit of now, right? So, but many things we try to we utilize our kids' resources in the future for the consumption now, like garbage, right? We do landfill because we use their future asset for our benefits now. So we have to think about the long-term goal instead of the short-term capacity. I think the green concept will be one thing. We release a lot of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So we part of the global warming problem. And I think the biggest issue will be the road transportation, right? The major contributor for the greenhouse gas. So I think we have to tackle that seriously. We have to look at our solid waste disposal reduction, right? Because I mean, they also create the greenhouse gas effect. So the car, the transportation, the solid waste disposal, right? So we have to use the waste separation project, create a compost from the regular garbage, and then treat them properly. Because right now, maybe 70% of our garbage go to the landfill, which we compromise the future generation resources. So we have to start tackling this problem by, I mean, the simplest thing would be to do the waste separation. And now we start doing it in certain districts, right? We have 50 districts. So we now start a pilot project in 3 districts of the separation of the garbage. And then we try to improve the last mile connection from the arterial line of the public transportation, right? Maybe we try to improve the bus system, or maybe using the walk, the pedestrian way, or even the bicycle to connect from the arterial line to the destination or to the origin. So we improve the last mile connectivity by using the efficient feeder, right? And then we try to promote EV ecosystem. So in the future, people will move from ICE to more like EV transportation. So I think the role of the city will be to improve the ecosystem, like we provide a charging station, provide incentive for the people to use more EV vehicle, or even our own fleets, we start converting it to the EV vehicle. And then I think we have the project of the building energy consumption, try to promote the green energy, or focusing on the net zero, starting with our buildings. So we thinking about more solar panel in our buildings, so rely less on the fossil fuel, but more like reusable energy to prevent the greenhouse effect. So I think mainly, so we focus more on the future generation, and maybe consume less of their future resource and depend more on the renewable energy and use the resources more efficiently.
กลับมาที่ผู้แทนจากประเทศมาเลเซียนะคะว่าท่านมองเห็นภาพอนาคตของการเป็นเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองอย่างไรนะคะ May I ask the representative of Malaysia, how do you visualize the future of Putrajaya as a self-sufficient city?
Firstly, cities should have clearly defined target setting and reasonable timeline for implementation. A phase-in approach can be applied when formulating a long-term action plan. This is important due to the financial and human resources constraint that each city is facing, and to avoid over-ambitious target setting. Second, having partnership with private sectors is needed to effectively review and update our green solution from time to time. Though this is partnership resources can be shared and may secure the continuous effort in conducting our low carbon green city initiatives.
สำหรับข้อเสนอแนะจาก UN Habitat ที่ท่านคิดว่าจะสามารถส่งต่อให้กับเมืองต่างๆเพื่อให้เกิดแนวคิดการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนมีข้อเสนอแนะอะไรบ้างคะที่จะส่งต่อให้กับเมืองอื่นๆได้ค่ะ What are the recommendations and suggestions from UN Habitat that can pass on for other cities to achieve sustainable development?
From our perspective, we consider planning as we are celebrating the World Town and Country Planning Day. Planning is the most essential. Prevention in every things that we do in terms of achieving the sustainability. Partnerships, establishing those partnerships, and more importantly, the people. So the good planning must be applied in all the cities and in all the projects that we do, be it housing, be it urban services, in a way that such planning prevent adverse effects on environment, and it also obtains the maximum social, economic, and environmental benefits for everyone. So these are four important principles that we always advise our member states, and we assist them. And to deliver the SDGs, what is clearly evident is that the world's poorest will need more, certainly, and we will have to dig deeper and broader. And I'm not just talking about the money itself, the financial resources. We are asking for more collaboration, more partnerships, more expertise, and more local engagement, especially with our young, women and children, and those people that are usually left behind. And we also need to have the whole of society approach to reposition, the entire society's response to climate crisis and responding to the emerging crisis around the world. And that's why we call it as leave no one and no place behind. And UN Habitat has been working with all the member states, in advocating these two important principles. And we are 2 years into the decade of action. And it is the time for us, not for only Habitat, but for every one of us to act is now. As our UN Secretary General has shared in the past, to accelerate sustainable solutions to all the world's biggest challenges, ranging from the poverty and the gender to climate change, inequality, and closing the finance gap. This requires massive efforts and also commitment with actions at all the levels, the global level, at the national level, subnational level, and also the communities. So we are committed to that such a whole of society approach to achieving the 2030 agenda. And this includes engaging with our partners and also the philanthropic communities. And finally, the cities in Thailand should leverage processes such as conducting voluntary local reviews, and also these are all being undertaken by departments, by ministries here, and also several cities. So, for example, Nakhon Si Thammarat, where UN Habitat is working with BMA, and also in Udon Thani in the future. So we are going to assess the progress on the achievement of SDGs. But these efforts must not stop at 1 or 2 or 3 places, but it should continue to align with the 12th National Economic and Social Development Plan of Government of Thailand. And that can facilitate the development of city technical action plans, which UN Habitat is cooperating with Hatyai, and looking forward to the possibility of work on the SDG cities with the cities such as Rayong, who expressed interest.
เราพูดได้ว่าวันนี้นะคะตำบลโก่งธนูประสบความสำเร็จในด้านการจัดการขยะแล้วก็การสร้างการมีส่วนร่วมในชุมชนได้เป็นอย่างดีค่ะอยากจะให้คุณบรรหารนวรัตน์ช่วยแบ่งปันข้อมูลหน่อยนะคะว่าถ้าหากชุมชนอื่นเขาต้องการจะขับเคลื่อนด้านการจัดการขยะท่านมีคำแนะนำด้านปัจจัยสำคัญอะไรในการขับเคลื่อนคะ We can say that Gong Thanu sub-district is greatly successful in waste management and in drawing people in the community to participate. I would like คุณบรรหารนวรัตน์ to share with us what is your suggestion for other communities if they would like to drive that waste management.
เราก็ใช้วิธีโดยบอกผู้นำที่มาดูงานของตำบลโก่งธนูว่าผู้นำต้องทำก่อนถ้าเขายังไม่เข้าใจไปหาหัวแยกบ้านและเดินไปหานะครับในส่วนตรงนี้ก็ทำให้ตำบลโก่งธนูเนี่ยช่วยตำบลอื่นๆหรือจังหวัดได้เยอะครับในส่วนตรงนี้
เช่นเดียวกับเมืองพนัสนิคมนะคะสอบถามทางคุณวิจัยอมราลิขิตค่ะว่าพนัสนิคมมีการบริหารกลไกแล้วก็ดึงประชาชนให้มีส่วนร่วมอย่างไรเพื่อให้เกิดการพัฒนาเมืองอย่างต่อเนื่องแล้วก็ยั่งยืนมาตลอดมากกว่า30ปีนะคะ For พนัสนิคม I would like to ask คุณวิจัยอมราลิขิต How does พนัสนิคม manage to draw the population to participate in the continuous development of พนัสนิคม for more than 30 years
When I was the mayor in the year of 1987, I tried to get in touch to every community in my city. One of the methods that we use is the good governance approach. With a good governance approach, we have about 8 major characteristics. The one is participant, consensus oriented, accountable, transparent, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive, and the rule of law. These 8 characteristics we use to get in touch with people and to manage our city. Because the good governance assure that when we use the good governance, we assure that the corruption is minimized. The will of the minority are taken into account. And that's one of the most vulnerable in society are heard in decision making. It is also responsive to the present and the future need of society. So I think that the good governance is a good way to approach to the people and to manage our city.
คำถามต่อไปนะคะขอสอบถามท่านชัชชาติ สิทธิพันธ์ค่ะถึงข้อเสนอแนะของเมืองกรุงเทพมหานครที่ท่านคิดว่าจะสามารถส่งต่อให้กับเมืองต่างๆเพื่อให้เกิดแนวคิดการพัฒนาอย่างยั่งยืนท่านคิดว่ามีข้อเสนอแนะอะไรบ้างที่จะสามารถส่งต่อให้กับเมืองอื่นๆได้คะ The next question is for ท่านชัชชาติ สิทธิพันธ์ Any suggestion or lesson learned from the BMA that can be passed on or shared to other cities to create sustainability?
Okay, thank you for the extra question. My role as a governor was short, like 4 months, but I think I learned a good lesson. I think the important thing for managing city is not the budget or the government role. I think the important thing would be the word called social contract. I think when we manage city, there are not only regulation or the budget from the government, but it's a collective help from everyone in the city. So when I say social contract, it means the interaction between people, between companies, between the government sectors, and then we interact with each other. And we have social contract, which means that there's something that we should do to each other. I think there's a book called What We Owe Each Other by Minoush Shafiq, and he talked about it. So I think social contract is important, and what you need to create trust among people in the city. I think trust is a currency for the future of the city, right? I mean, the budget might not be as important as trust, because with trust you can do many things. You can have cooperation, you can have help from many people, and you can bring a city all together. Even though you have so big of a budget, but you don't have trust from the people, it's very difficult to bring sustainability to the city. So I think my recommendation would be, as the government or as the city manager, create trust among people. Be transparent, be people-centric. Empower them and listen to them, and work with them, collaborate with them. And once you gain trust, which is reciprocal, you have to trust them, and the people trust you. You can bring people within the city forward much more efficiently. So my recommendation would be create trust among people, and with trust, I think you can everyone can help make the city more sustainable.
สุดท้ายนี้นะคะขอกลับมาที่ประเด็นร่วมของงานสัมมนาในครั้งนี้ค่ะนั่นก็คือเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองนะคะมุมมองต่อแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองสำหรับ UN Habitat ในปัจจุบันเป็นอย่างไรบ้างและมองภาพอนาคตของการเป็นเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองอย่างไรค่ะ Last but not least I would like to visit the main theme of today's event which is self-sufficient city for UN Habitat. What is your viewpoint on the concept of being a self-sufficient city? How do you visualize the self-sufficient city of the future?
Thank you. Climate change, COVID-19, these two actually reminded us the reasons why cities should be self-sustainable. Cities can become self-sufficient in different aspects. It can be power, it can be food, it can be water, it can be in production, both in terms of manufacturing sector and also in terms of agriculture products. So on energy, for example, a city can become more sustainable by being less reliant on external energy production, by improving the renewable energy sources like solar panels that can be installed on the buildings, on the public buildings, on the schools and housing, on the roofs to support the city's energy production and link the generation of that electricity from that public institutions and the private housing to the electricity grids. On food, the urban farming is one of the best solutions to promote fresh produce with less carbon footprint from transportation. Vegetables are planted on rooftops, walls, and yards, and we have seen in several places in Bangkok as well. On the production, we always say waste is not a waste, but we always, waste sometimes. So it can be reused. We have seen in several places in Thailand. I myself have a personal experience in Pisanalok municipality, where the waste is being reused, recycled, and turned into energy. And such waste recycling, and it also can contribute to circular economy. And we have seen MacArthur Foundation, they have estimated the circular economy could save the entire European businesses up to $630 billion per year, just by saving the material cost by 2025, in case if they go with this kind of reusing, recycling, and turning into energy. On economy, a city should promote a circular economy by seeing this example and by focusing on 3 urban systems: the buildings, the mobility, and the products. So the concepts of sustainability and the resilience, as we know, has been part of the Thai culture. After the economic crisis in 1997, I recall the sufficiency economy philosophy came to prominence in responding to building a more sustainable and resilient, future in Thailand. So the SCP is a Thai development approach attributed to, as I mentioned before, to His Majesty the late King Bhumipol Adulyadej, that highlights a balanced way of living based upon 3 principles: the moderation, the reasonableness, and the resilience, along with the conditions of knowledge and morality. So applying those principles to a city, we feel we can achieve, what all the SDGs are trying to achieve by 2030. The moderation, the reasonableness, and the resilience.
สอบถามไปที่คุณบรรหารนะคะในประเด็นเดียวกันเลยค่ะถึงมุมมองต่อแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองสำหรับตำบลโก่งธนูในปัจจุบันเป็นอย่างไรและมองภาพอนาคตของชุมชนไว้อย่างไรบ้างนะคะ Let's move to คุณบรรหาร What is your viewpoint on the concept of being a self-sufficient city in today's โก่งธนู How do you visualize the future of โก่งธนู as a self-sufficient city
สำหรับตำบลโก่งธนูอนาคตของชุมชนเนี่ยเรามีอทรน้อยอาสาสมัครท้องถิ่นรักโลกของคนตำบลโป่งช่วยเราดูแลทำความสะอาดบ้านเมืองถามว่าอนาคตข้างหน้าเด็กพวกนี้เนี่ยต้องเป็นตัวแทนเป็นประชาชนที่ดีของคนตำบลโป่งในสิ่งตรงนี้ถ้าถามว่าประชาชนดีเด็กดีอนาคตก็ต้องดีครับตำบลโป่งธนูเนี่ยถ้าพึ่งพาตนเองเรื่องอนาคตข้างหน้าอย่างเช่นขยะแห้งเราไปทำสวัสดิการเราจะได้เงิน80,000ขยะเปียกเราไปสู่แปลงผักทำให้ทุกคนปลอดภัยแล้วเราก็สอนเด็กทุกโรงเรียนในตำบลโป่งเรามีอทรผู้ใหญ่อทรแล้วฝึกเด็กตั้งแต่2 ขวบครึ่งเปียกกับแห้งแยกกันแล้วก็ไปปลูกผักก็เพิ่มการแบ่งปันพอได้ฟาร์มแบ่งปันก็ได้ฟาร์มสามัคคี1,700 คนเนี่ยเราใช้คนจำนวนนี้ 1,700 คนโดยไม่ต้องใช้เงินประมาณของตำบลโป่งเราใช้ฟาร์มเป็นผู้นำของแต่ละคนที่มาช่วยตำบลครับ
เช่นกันกับคุณวิจัยนะคะมุมมองต่อแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองสำหรับพนัสนิคมในปัจจุบันเป็นอย่างไรแล้วมองภาพอนาคตของเมืองไว้อย่างไรบ้างค่ะ What is your viewpoint on the concept of being a self-sufficient city in today's พนัสนิคม How do you visualize the future of พนัสนิคม as a self-sufficient city
It's a good thing that my municipality, we don't have any industrial in the area. That's a good point of my municipality. So we have been designed our city to be a livable city and a good food center. to invite any people, any person come to our area. You can stay and you can have a good food for every day of life. We have about 5 park and exercise area for our citizens that can be exercise and recreation. We have enough place for the people to have something like the recreation activity. And we encourage the seller to create and make a high quality food for the people that visit and live in our city. If you have a clean food and not too expensive, this is the main point to serve for the one that live in our city.
และสุดท้ายท่านชัชชาตินะคะมุมมองต่อแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองสำหรับกรุงเทพมหานครในปัจจุบันเป็นอย่างไรแล้วก็มองภาพอนาคตของกรุงเทพมหานครไว้อย่างไรบ้างค่ะ And finally to ท่านชัชชาติ What is your viewpoint on the concept of being a self-sufficient city in today's Bangkok? How do you visualize the future of Bangkok as a self-sufficient city?
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because in fact, frankly speaking, I never thought of city being a self-sufficient before. And another thing is would be easy to implement it, because I think the city we tend to promote the competitive advantage, right? I mean, we providing what is we are more competitive, right? And then we buy things that we are less competitive. Right? Even if you are the capital city, Bangkok, right? We more like providing service industry. So we may be like financial center, maybe the manufacturing center. So we are more competitive in providing service industry, but we will be less competitive in providing agricultural product. So we buy food from other provinces, right? So I mean, actually, in many cities, I would say they are more like specialized workforce, and we rely on others. So, but the question, bring back to reality. Sometimes if you are not self-sufficient in certain degrees, you will have problem when the crisis comes. And I think we need to think about self-sufficient by being competitive. Right? If you look at this chart, the vertical axis will be quality of living, and the horizontal is the cost of living. So Bangkok is we have the in the like a middle of the cost of living index comparing to other cities, right? So we need to improve our quality of living without compromising our cost of living. So if you want to be self-sufficient, we have to be competitive too. If we want to be self-sufficient and increasing cost of living too much, make the city less competitive, so it will be a problem. So I think we have to be self-sufficient with a good reason and still maintain our competitiveness. But when you look at the city, what are you getting from outside, right? When you have city and you have community, so we definitely Bangkok, we get most of the food from somewhere else, like vegetable. Yesterday I went to the market, and then the green onion price double from like 100 baht per kilo to 200 baht per kilo. I asked why, and the guy at the market said, oh, because it's flooding in Korat, which is about 200 kilometers from Bangkok. So they grow green onion there. So flooding in Korat caused the food price increase in Bangkok, right? Because we are not independent. And energy, we get it from other province. Water, right? I mean, even we have a water plant in Bangkok, we still get the water from Chapaya River, which come from the north. Workforce, we don't have enough workforce. So we have workforce from other province or even other country, and the material, the raw material from our industry. So it's difficult to be totally self-independent or self-sufficient for the city because we rely on our competitive advantage. So what should we do? I think at least, I mean, not in the city level, but in the community level, we might try to focus them to be more like, we would say like the safety or maybe self-sufficient in the local level, right? So I mean, if we always buy vegetable from other provinces, we can have the community farm, which have maybe on the rooftop, or some space, vacant space in the community, and then develop their own vegetable farm, you know. But this one maybe look at the community level. So it's a self-sufficient more in the micro level, but not in the macro and the city level. Or even the energy, right? I mean, instead of taking the energy from like power plant somewhere outside Bangkok. So I mean, the solar cell can have the more the micro approach to energy production, and it can be providing energy security if you have the batteries too, you know. So I think when you say sufficient, I think we cannot be totally self-sufficient on our own, but maybe in certain aspects, like in the community level, I think we can start looking at like the food safety or energy dependent, right? And I think maybe the other thing I would say is, even though we might not be able to do the self-sufficient for every aspect, but at least you need to have a redundant. So what I mean is, if you have only one source of food for Bangkok, I think you might need another source or two sources that can be a redundant when there's a crisis hitting, right? So you have only one source of outside food providing for you, and then if some disaster struck that province, so you end up having no food. So I think you need scenario planning and maybe have a redundant for what you need or what you depend from other. So I think with a redundant of supplies, you can be a little bit more self-sufficient or maybe more like self-independence, right? Because if the disaster struck in your single source of resources, you'll be in the big trouble. But you have redundant, and other place can provide an alternative source of your need. I think you'll be in a better shape. So I think the scenario planning would be important for the cities and find the alternative source of your input, whether it's going to be energy, food, water, or other raw material. So maybe do scenario planning and find the redundant in area that you can do it on your own, do it maybe more in the community level. And I think with this you can make a Bangkok a livable city for all.
ท่านแขกผู้มีเกียรติคะวันนี้เราได้เห็นแล้วนะคะว่าแต่ละเมืองมีแนวทางในการพัฒนาที่แตกต่างกันเราได้ฟังมุมมองของตัวแทนแต่ละเมืองที่ได้นำเสนอมุมมองการพัฒนาเมืองตั้งแต่อดีตมาจนถึงปัจจุบันหลายเมืองให้ความสำคัญกับแนวคิดเมืองพึ่งพาตนเองให้สอดคล้องกับสภาพภูมิประเทศของแต่ละที่แล้วก็คำนึงถึงประชาชนผู้อาศัยเพื่อสร้างเมืองในอนาคตให้กับทุกคนนะคะวันนี้ดิฉันรู้สึกยินดีแล้วก็เป็นเกียรติมากๆที่ได้ร่วมพูดคุยแลกเปลี่ยนกับทุกท่านนะคะในนามของกรมโยธาธิการและผังเมืองประเทศไทยก็ต้องขอกล่าวขอบคุณวิทยากรทุกท่านที่มาร่วมแชร์มุมมองกันในวันนี้ด้วยนะคะ Ladies and gentlemen, according to the International Forum, we have learned from all representatives that each city had its own unique way in the city development. Today, many cities focus on the concept of self-sufficient city as well as paying attention to people in the city in order to create the future city for everyone. On behalf of Department of Public Works and Town and Country Planning, Thailand, I would like to say thank you very much indeed for joining us today. I'm so honored and privileged to have the great opportunity to discuss with all of you. We are also looking forward to seeing you next year.